Today I'm hosting a collab called May I Come Over for Brunch, and it's full of, as you probably guessed, brunch items. And if you're looking for something low-cal, low-bite, low-point to serve at brunch, I've got the perfect solution for you here. This is my cinnamon roll French toast casserole. Comes together easily, but looks like you've slaved all day. And it's not just for brunch anymore. I'll occasionally have it for dessert. So if you're interested in seeing how this is done, stick around because it's coming up next. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name's Roy. I'm a home cook and amateur baker, and I'm here on this channel sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now today is one of mine, and it is part of a collab that was started by Kayla. Her channel used to be called Get It Done Mom. Now it's Kayla's Life Captured WW. Life got in the way and she could not participate, but she did start this collab and I picked up the mantle and ran with it because we definitely could use some brunch items. They always come in handy, especially towards the holidays, but really anytime you have people over. And don't forget to check out all of the other channels that are doing this collab down in the description box. You'll be getting all sorts of brunch recipes that you're gonna love. I am going to be doing my cinnamon roll French toast casserole. Now this is going to serve 8, but if you were having a lot of people over, you could actually make the portions a little smaller, but I think 8 is a good size portion for a breakfast. But you don't actually have to have this just for breakfast. I've actually been eating it for dessert. It is that good. It's kind of like a cinnamon roll. If you have a cinnamon roll, you can have it for breakfast, or you can have it as a treat later in the day. And this is perfect on both counts. So let's go over the ingredients. I have here a rack full of dried bread pieces. Now I'm using the Sara Lee Delightful 45 white bread. It comes in a 15-ounce loaf, so there are 20 slices in each package. But if you use a different type of bread, just use about 20 pieces, and it may affect the bites or points that I'm going to get if you use something else. Now what I did, because you don't want this to be fresh bread, because once you let it soak, it's gonna kind of start to fall apart, especially some of these lower bite, lower point breads. They can get a little too mushy. So I like to dry mine out. So what I did was I piled up a few slices and I cut them into 16 pieces each slice. So I'd have all these little cubes of bread. Then I set them out onto 2 sheet pans with cooling racks on top, just so that they can get some air circulating. Because if you set it right on the baking sheet, the side that's not getting any air will remain soft and the top will dry out. But I did move them around a little bit just to get some air moving around. And then I went to bed and left them overnight to dry out. And I don't know if you can hear, they are pretty dry. And that is what I'm looking for. Now this is part of the reason you can use it as a dessert, because these cubes are more reminiscent of a bread pudding than a French toast, but it's easier in this casserole style if you're doing these little cubes than if you're doing slices. So these did dry out overnight, and then I just combined the 2 racks onto this one so I didn't have to try to fit it all into camera. I have here 2 cups of almond milk, and that is at room temperature, only because it does come together a little bit more easily with the eggs over here. I have 6 eggs, which are also at room temperature. That's just gonna make them easier to break down and combine with the milk and the other ingredients. I have here 2/3 cup of my light homemade cream cheese. And if you haven't seen that video, I will link to that directly down in the description box. That is a staple for a lot of people that have been making it for a while. They love it because you're just making it with some Greek yogurt, a little bit of salt to help dry out that moisture and also give it more of a cream cheese texture and taste. But that's 2/3 of a cup, which in a rough estimation, I would say about a cup of Greek yogurt would probably give you 2/3 of a cup, maybe a little bit more. I have here 2/3 of a cup of confectioner sugar replacement, and I am using the Bestie confectioner sugar. People ask all the time which one I'm using. I am using Bestie. That's the one that doesn't have any aftertaste for my partner, Paul, who cannot deal with any sort of aftertaste. I can usually overlook it. He can't. So I'd rather err on the side of having no aftertaste. And here I have 1/4 cup of brown sugar replacement. And for that, I'm using the So Nourished, which I enjoyed, but Bestie also has a really good one. Paul seems to detect a faint aftertaste from this one. I do not, but I have used the Bestie brown sugar and had no problems with that one either. Here I have 2 tablespoons of almond milk. That is for our frosting, which is part of the cream cheese and the confectioner sugar. And that's just going to thin down the frosting a little bit so that you get more of that spread like a cinnamon roll has. And here I have, speaking of the star of the show, 1 tablespoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract for the casserole, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract for the frosting. And that's what's all going to go in. I also have some baking spray here because I want to coat my pan to make sure I get those pieces out without any problem. All right, so let me shuffle a few things around and we will get started. First things first, I'm going to spray my 13 by 9 casserole dish here with some baking spray. You could use cooking spray, but I do like the fact that the baking spray has some flour in there, so it tends to release a little more easily. All right, so that is done. Let me set this aside, and I'm gonna bring in my large bowl here and my whisk. And the first thing I'm going to add in are our eggs. We're gonna get those in, and then we're going to break those up a little bit before we add in the other ingredients. That way it's broken up. It's not going to fight against the almond milk, trying to keep those yolks intact. So that's what I'm gonna start with, is just breaking up those yolks and then just whisking it just a little bit. You don't have to go too crazy. You just want to get things broken up a little bit so that the other ingredients are going to incorporate a little more easily. Now I'm going to add in the brown sugar replacement, the cinnamon, and the vanilla, and break up that brown sugar to get that incorporated in here as well, and mix that in. I do this before adding in the milk, just because if there's too much liquid, the cinnamon will want to stay floating on the top. So if I incorporate it in with the eggs, it comes together a little more easily. So just whisk that around, and you will see dots of cinnamon or brown sugar, and just try to break those up with your whisk, then whisk some more. Now it's not going to break up everything, but this is going to give it a good jump start. Okay, that looks pretty well combined. I'm going to bring in my almond milk now and add that in, and just the same thing, we're just going to whisk it so that we get everything to be one homogeneous color, and it only takes a moment. That looks good right there. Okay, now the next step is to bring in our bread, and I'm just going to toss those all in there and let them start to soak up some of this custard. I've seen a lot of recipes that call for you to put the bread in the pan and then pour the liquid over it. Then I've had all the custard sink to the bottom, and the top doesn't really have any custard, so it dries out a little bit more. So I prefer doing it this way. Okay, so that's all in there. Now we're just going to toss all of our bread cubes in our custard mixture here. And this is essentially how you would do a bread pudding. So as I said, this can be used as a dessert as well, but I also think it makes a great brunch item because it definitely serves a lot of people. So I'm just going to toss this around a little bit. Now we're just going to let this sit for about 5 minutes, and I'm going to toss it on occasion just so that the bread on top gets some moisture from what is remaining down below. But about 5 minutes, and I'll be back. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes, and you can see that the bread has absorbed a lot of the liquid, but it's still retaining its shape because it was dried out. As I said, if it were still soft bread, it would have like kind of melted into the liquid rather than becoming its own separate thing. But now I'm going to bring in my 13 by 9 baking dish, and we're just going to pour all of this bread mixture into our pan, and then we're just going to spread this out into as even of a layer as we can. And you don't have to press down on it, just gently move it around, get that out into all of the corners and edges. All right, so that's all there is to this step. I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees. This is going to go in for about 30 to 35 minutes until the top is lightly browned and the center is set when you touch it. Let me get this into the oven and we will start on our frosting. For our cream cheese frosting, what we're going to do is put our cream cheese into the bowl, a larger bowl, and you can see that some of the liquid has come off from the cream cheese. Don't worry about that, just leave that in there. And I'm actually going to use that to kind of smooth out the cream cheese for now. Just spread that out and mix that a little bit. Now I'm going to add in the vanilla so I can flavor the cream cheese and incorporate that into the cream cheese also. And you will need to tap off your whisk on occasion because the cream cheese does like to get mixed in there. And then we're going to add in our sugar. I do about half for the first round and get that incorporated so I don't get a shower of confectioner sugar all over the place. You could do this with an electric mixer, but it's really not that difficult to combine it. And I'm going to add in the rest of the powdered sugar and get that incorporated as well. And now I'm going to take my 2 tablespoons of almond milk. I'll add about half. I'll probably need all of it. And you may, if you want it a little thinner, you may want to add a little bit more, but 2 tablespoons usually seems about a good measure. So I'm just going to put about half in and whisk that in, again carefully, because you don't want to splash that almond milk out of the bowl. And now it's looking a little more like a glaze, which is what I'm looking for, but I want it a smidge thinner. So I'm going to add the whole thing in and just incorporate that. And now I have something that I can spread that's not going to be thick and clumpy, but it's not going to be overly loose either. This is ready. Now I have about another 24 minutes or so in the oven. So I'll be back when that is done and ready to ice. There we have it, ladies and gentlemen, my cinnamon roll French toast casserole. And you can see it's slightly brown. It's not going to get like a brown. And if I tap in the center, it is firm and set, but still has a little bit of bounce. The bounce shows you that there is still moisture in there, which is definitely what you want. So now for the final step, we're just going to take our frosting, our icing. You don't have to wait until it cools down because you want your French toast warm. So we're just going to drizzle that over, and you can then spread it out once you get everything on here. So don't worry too much about getting it all even the way you want it, just right off the bat. Okay, and then just spread it around like you would on a cinnamon roll. And there you have it. Cinnamon roll French toast casserole. Couldn't be any easier. And you also don't need syrup for this. The icing is sweet enough. You could do some syrup if you really wanted, but I don't think you'll need it. And as this sits, it'll start to solidify again. Right now, it's kind of seeping into the bread, and it's really making this one delicious dish. But even though you can use it as either a breakfast or a dessert, it is really not going to be too bad on the nutrition facts. But before I go over those nutrition facts, if you're new here, I would really appreciate it if you stuck around and subscribed to the channel. I've been doing it just over 2 years now, so I have quite a variety of recipes, including the cream cheese, which was my first video. So please subscribe if you're new here. And if you are new to any of the channels down in the description box who are also part of this collab, why not show them a little subscription love as well? Now, on to those nutrition facts. If you have 1/8 of this dish, it is only going to be 3 Better Balance Bites, or Old Blue Points. I'm on the Healthy Better Balance plan, which is equivalent to the old WW Blue plan, which I guess is close to the current plan, but I guess there are a few items that may throw your points off. But 3 Better Balance Bites or 3 Blue Points for 1/8 of this delicious casserole. Now, if you are following calories, the calories for 1 serving of this would be 196. And if you were following macros, the fat would be 5.6 grams, the carbs would be 45 grams, the fiber would be 8 grams, and the protein would be 14.2 grams. Again, as I made it. If you change up the bread, if you don't make my cream cheese and use a store-bought, those things may affect the bites, points, calories, and macros. So just put it into the recipe builder of whatever app you're using. Now this is also great if you wanted to do some meal prep, because I have kept this in the refrigerator for up to a week without any problems. So you could easily make yourself or you and your partner some breakfast for the week, or have a delicious treat as a dessert. As I said, I've done it myself. Now to reheat this, I just put it in the microwave for about 30 to 60 seconds on high, and it is delicious. Brings it right back to life. And if you really wanted to splurge, you could sprinkle some toasted pecans on top. It's your call. And Kim, don't come at me for the way I say pecans. Now, if you enjoyed this video and this recipe, I would appreciate you supporting the channel and doing the usual. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit the notification bell for any time I upload any sort of video, such as this one, which is coming out on a day that I don't typically post. Now, the recipe for this, as many of you already know, is going to be linked directly down in the description box. Down there will also be a link to the blog itself if you're looking for any of my recipes, such as the cream cheese. And also down there is my Amazon storefront, my Built Bar Rewards, Fetch Rewards, Skinny Syrups code, and my social media. I have an Instagram and now 3 Facebook groups that I am a part of. So go check out that description box for all sorts of information. And if you're not sure how to open up the description box, under the title of this video, just click more or show more, and it will open up the description box for you there. Well, this cinnamon roll French toast casserole is ready to go, but I'm not sure if I want it for breakfast or dessert. Why not both? Anyway, I hope that you will be enjoying this no matter what meal you have it for. And until next time, bye.